What's going on, guys? And rise and shine, we have another balance patch from Marvel Snap for the month of August. Just days after the Captain Marvel OTA and the morning of Dawkins release, we're going to be seeing 3 buffs, 1 nerf, and 2 changes. So you can be damn sure that the meta is going to be anything but stale for the month of August. Now, if you've been watching these update videos, you probably heard me say back in June this about Spider-Man. Like, we have cards that are like way down the totem pole of badass Marvel characters that have better abilities and are more unique than Spider-Man. So personally, I think he needs a complete rework. Well, Spider-Man, guys, is finally getting a sick ability to match his personality. They'll be taking him from that old 5-4, which was previously a 4-3, with the on-reveal ability of locking people out in the location you play him in the next turn, to now a 3-5 with an on-reveal. Move Spider-Man to another location and pull an enemy card from here to there. So when you play him on a location, he'll take an enemy card and pull it to another random location. Now, obviously, this is easily one of the biggest reworks or changes that we've ever seen in a card. And the devs said this: discovering Spider-Man in the game should be fun. They don't want him to have something that's associated maybe with more of a toxic ability in the game. Things like Galactus and Lockdown decks, and it should be a good experience. Since launch, all Spider-Verse characters have been kind of attached to the movement archetype in some way, or movement with cards, and so they're bringing him in line with the same theme so that Peter's in line with the other Spideys like Ghost and obviously Miles Morales. I mean, you guys know my feelings on it. This is exactly what I wanted for the character as a whole, but altogether, I think it's going to be easy for the majority of us to say goodbye to Lockdown Spider-Man. It might be harder for others, but either way, I think it's not too hard to argue that this is a good fit for the hero, and maybe they bring the ability back. Now let's go ahead and break him down as a card. A 3-5, obviously very good power to cost ratio, so just pumped to see him get just good stats flat out. The ability is going to be awesome for surprising opponents, taking a Devil Dinosaur in a lane by itself into another lane. He could be a combo breaker, messing up what the opponent is going to try to do to set up a big combo with, let's say, Wong. You have synergy with other cards that are cheeky, like Kraven, Kingpin, other Spider-Man universe cards, which I think is the goal of this entire rework. And then you even have a Galactus counter who he used to help. And so altogether, I think that he's going to be a good plug-and-play card with a good amount of value in a wide variety of decks. Now, the next buff we're going to be talking about is Cable. Far less sexy than the Spider-Man change, and for whatever reason, it took them months to adjust this. He is now going to be pulling cards from the opponent's top of the deck instead of the bottom of the deck. Now, a few months back, they changed the way Jubilee and America Chavez worked, and essentially, it killed Cable from being a niche card to a downright just horrible, non-playable for that matter, card. Essentially, he just pulled America Chavez, but America Chavez is there to thin out decks, and so nobody was playing him, and he was finally starting to pick up steam in Conquest, and then bam, he died. It only took a few months, but now we do have Cable getting himself rightfully pulling a card that you want to pull from the opponent's deck and get the top pull, which means you're going to be able to steal, let's say, a Shang-Chi, and then the opponent doesn't know they have Shang-Chi not in their deck as a draw, and it makes it a lot easier to have a big play down, right? So Cable is going to have use again. I still think he's probably going to be a niche option. However, you can now play him with maybe alongside Mirage, or you can play him with like a Collector or Quinjet style deck. He'll be playable again in Conquest, most likely. Overall, what does this mean? Not a hell of a lot. You're going to probably start to see him every now and then. Mirage is, it's not better, but it almost better than what he does. I like what he can bring to the table, and I can see decks making him work, but I'm glad this change finally happened. Now let's move on to the next buff that they label as kind of like a change and not a buff, and it's Mr. Negative, and they're going to be changing just one small thing that I think actually has a massive difference on the way that you can play him, and that is capping the cost at his switch power to 6. So how obviously it used to work is if you had something like America Chavez and you played Mr. Negative, he would then make Chavez a 9-6, right? And you can't play Chavez at that point. Now, 6 is going to be the max cost, and that may not seem like a huge difference, but I think this is going to be massive for Jane Negative and just creating Mr. Negative decks a little bit more. Living Tribunal is a great card that can skyrocket overall potential, but obviously he has 9 power now, and he couldn't work with Mr. Negative, and now he can. If you haven't played Jane Foster Negative, guys, this is probably one of the most explosive decks in Marvel Snap if things go right. if you play Mr. Negative followed by Jane Foster, you legit just get to play a billion cards at once. It's absolute mayhem and a really fun combo deck. So definitely something if you haven't tapped into, you got to play. I'll have a deck guide later on it, probably sometime this week. Now, moving right along, we're going to kind of rapid fire through the next two. I'm going to label them as buffs, mainly because I don't have a graphic that is neutral. This is kind of just a change, a small change that I guess you could consider a buff for both cards. Rogue is going to get the same treatment that Mystique got not long ago. Whenever she does steal an ability, she's now going to trigger the on reveal that it has. So something like Electro, if you want to take that ability, or if you want to have like the Soul Stone is where you're going to see it the most right now. This is probably for the future, and you're not going to see a massive change at the moment. And the next up is Magik, who's maybe a bit more notable. You can now play her on turn 6, guys. She's no longer locked off from being played. So in those rare circumstances that 2 power was going to make the difference, bam, you now have the ability to do so. The way Limbo works is going to look a bit different VFX-wise, but altogether, she's a 3-cost card, and you can now kind of play her if you need a little bit of extra oomph into a lane, which will be nice. You never want to be locked from playing your cards in the game. Obviously, it's important to know if you play Magik on turn 6, Limbo is not going to happen. They don't want that to happen specifically, and that's going to be lined up in the way the VFX works. So, hey, cool. Listen, I am so glad that we can play Magik now for the 2 power. And lastly, guys, that takes us to our only nerf, and it's not a massive one. It's going to kind of buff another card, and that is going to be the Thing in the high Evo decks, or they like to call it the Evolved Thing. Now, he was a 4/6 on reveal. You would inflict a random enemy card here with -1 power, which would essentially make you put -3 onto one side of the board while playing the Thing's 6 power, making him a reliable 4/9. Well, they indicated that he was doing even better than Cyclops, which makes sense. A 4/9 is obviously a very good card. And now he's going to work a little different. He's going to inflict 3 random enemy cards with -1 power. So he's not going to be able to stack negative points on one card, but he can spread that power to multiple cards. Now, in tandem, it's going to make Abomination a little bit easier to play for even cheaper. Obviously, the more cards with negative affliction is going to go off his total cost amount. Look, people didn't play him a ton in a lot of high Evo decks, but if you played a dedicated high Evo deck that wasn't Lockjaw or, the Magik deck, he did see a lot of play. 4/9, as I said, very good, and now it's going to line up with where they want high Evo to be, which I think he's in a pretty good spot. And then lastly, guys, in non-card related news, we have the new upgrade feature just to go right to the split that you're looking for, which is going to be a nice quality of life change. I will say the ability to now just spin gold to get the boosters, albeit it's a lot of gold, you should never do it. It kind of takes away from playing, seeing a card and be like, wow, that person plays that a lot, to they could have bought it. But either way, this is a nice QOL feature, and I'm excited to see it in the game. So just a massive amount of changes, guys, with the Captain Marvel, Vision, Absorbing Man, all that craziness. Let me know down in the comments below. I genuinely want to know, what do you think of Spider-Man's change? Do you think other cards that are iconic need the change, like Captain America, maybe Punisher? He's probably not that iconic. Either way, I think flavor changes feel really good for a game like Marvel Snap, and I think they did hit the nail on the head with Spider-Man. Anyway, guys, these are going to be all the changes from the August balance patch. Good luck out there in the brand new season. And as always, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe down below. And until the next one, I'll be snapping.